Let's talk a little bit about being a steward of good tech.
Yeah.
So your tenure at IBM was marked in particular by moving to the cloud, a lot of investment in AI. You helped develop Watson and that
very
whole
early.
system. It was, but issues which are incredibly important right now, especially AI. What are the lessons that you've learned from your history in developing that technology when you look at what's happening now? How can we be a steward of good tech in 2023?
Because I hope anybody watches convinced, not just as individuals, as users, what we do with our tech, but anybody who builds it, fine. But actually, since so many people use it now, it's like any company, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, the number one thing is whatever you do, you've got to build trust for the long term. So maybe even said better, being a steward of good tech means, can you manage the upside and the downside in parallel, not distanced by time? So in other words, hey, look, isn't this great? Oh, it's causing problems. No. From the beginning, and I even think about, like when ChatGPT came out, the first thing you heard about was from educators. Oh no, kids can cheat now, right? They can have their paper written. I would have loved to have seen the app at the same time come out that said, let me give you a confidence level that paper was written with ChatGPT. Just a subtle difference would have kind of telegraphed, hey, you've got to educate. So the first thing I think about is manage up and down in parallel. The second is you're going to have some guardrails. And to me, the guardrails, okay, yes, there can be regulation, but the real issue is think about its usage. I think the regulation that would be effective would be on usage, because people have different tolerance levels for errors. You and I were just both talking about Wikipedia for a second ago, and when things are right and when they're wrong. Like, okay, if you found a few wrong things about me, you don't care. You're going to ask me and we'll clear that up. But if you're doing medical research, and I learned that through our work, when I work on really important problems, even though a human might be wrong 30% of the time, when I ask a medical question, I expect 100%. So there are really different tolerance levels based on the problem. And now, I think for the public to not fear it, we have to be really careful about giving good guidance on how it's trained, where it's used, and at this time, what is the right things to use it for? And I'm a little worried about that right now, because that's got to come through quickly, or Dr. Kissinger had a great quote. He said, history says, when people, if they don't understand something, they fear it or they revolt, right? And I'd hate to see that sort of really hold back AI, because I think there's so much promise with it, but we're in that moment. So to me, good tech meant anything you can do with trust. These all fall under trust. Long-term, short-term, in parallel, the idea of being explainable with the technology, and then teaching people how to use it, and so they think, hey, I'm gonna have a better life. Not all this stuff about, I learned at the beginning, it was back in 2012, oh no, it's gonna destroy all jobs. I kept saying, no, it's gonna change a lot of jobs, but you're focusing on the wrong thing. But if people think it's gonna mean they're gonna have a bad future, this is not good either for a technology. So I think it can make you and I better at our jobs, and there are a lot of people that talk about that now, being a co-pilot. But I got to tell you, I was talking about AI ethics a decade ago. I couldn't get anybody to listen. So I was just, now I'm like, okay, like usual, I'm a little bit early, but I was actually right on that one. Not everything, that one I was right on.
So if there's somebody who's just starting out their career in technology right now, maybe they're a recent college graduate or they're changing industries, and they're facing these thorny issues from AI to privacy to everything else, what's your advice for somebody just starting out in the tech world right now?
I think my advice would be, do your work with values in mind. Whatever your values are, apply that to your work. And I think, because I'd love to see these technologies built from the beginning with trust in them. That would be my advice, right? And just be ever curious with them.